how India is rewriting its West Asia's trade strategy. How come Oman is an important starting point in this strategy? What are India's big gains in the recent FTA and what has been left out to protect the economy? In an increasingly protectionist global economy, India's trade policy is undergoing a strategic recalibration. And in this very context, India-Oman CEPA is an example that how New Delhi is looking to expand its export markets beyond West. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajiram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh and today we are going to understand the significance of this FTA that has been signed with Oman, how it is going to give us a strategic geopolitical edge, what are the things that have been included, what has been not, and how all of this has been brought onto the table. So let us start with understanding that what exactly has been signed. So a comprehensive economic partnership agreement, that is CEPA, has been signed by India with Oman this very day, and this is another FTA that is coming with another Gulf cooperation countries which are present. So can you tell me in the comment section which is the first country that already has an FTA with us, and Oman becomes the second. They have tightened up the barriers around them, they have been raised, and that is why this is where India needed to expand and bring in new markets so that the exports and the associated industries are not hurt. So in this very context, this CEPA coming at this timing is of utmost importance, because if you talk about US, the things have been pretty undecisive and there has been a lot of uncertainty that has been involved. The US tariffs have been rising and the protectionism around them that has not dissolved, and the FTA that has been on table for past 6 months is nowhere to be finalized as of now. There are conversations that it is almost there, it is almost there. Other than that, there are certain situations, but nothing comes to a finality. And another problem that we are facing in terms of exports is European Union's Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, CBAM. Now, because of this, we are facing increased compliance cost, and because of that, our export competitiveness decreases. And also, if we are looking another regional organization, that is GCC, that also has stalled our FTA talks. So all in all, the access towards export markets and getting into trade agreements as of now looked very difficult, and because of that, there could have been a huge impact on our export oriented industries. And in this moment when this FTA has been signed, this shows that okay, there is a ray of hope, this is the starting point, and a lot of things can unfold from here on. And that is why this particular CEPA becomes very important, because it serves the simple objective of diversifying our export markets, reducing the dependence of exports only to the Western countries, and it automatically strengthens India and West Asia's trade corridor, which has been existent for long, but if you talk about the volume and the trust and the partnership, they have had scope to be brought up to this level and also beyond. Now in this context, let us start with understanding the provisions and the inclusion, non-inclusion in the CEPA that has been signed. So starting with goods. If we are looking at exports and imports in the recent years, you can see in the given data, where you will find there has been an incremental increase in exports and there has been a gradual increase in export and import both. So the total trade volume from 5.38 billion has gone to 10.60 billion. If we talk about exports, they also have increased twofold in last 5 years, and the key items that we are exporting are machinery, engineering goods, aircrafts, rice, then we have iron and steel products, ceramics, beauty, personal care brands, and refined petroleum products, including naphtha and also petrol. But when we are talking about exports from Oman, that is the imports that we are getting, they are also of huge importance because they facilitate our energy security, be it crude oil and LNG, fertilizers, petrochemical inputs such as methanol and hydrous ammonia, and petroleum coke. All in all, the trade relationship that has been inculcated, we get to see both of the countries have had trade inputs from both of the ends, and here we get to see that Oman is one of the diversified suppliers in terms of energy security as well as industrial inputs. So this seemed like a point where we can expand it further because there is a lot of scope, because as Oman is also one of the up and coming hubs, and this is where the trade that was already ongoing was formalized and facilitated in a better manner through this CEPA. Now, once we have talked only about goods, now let us move to understand the services aspect, because they also form a great component. Now, we have spoken only about the goods here. Let us understand the services related aspects as well, because when we are talking about services, they are the ones which are the biggest gains that we get to see in this particular agreement that has been signed. So, if we talk about the services market, as of now, if we are looking at Oman's global services imports, that is somewhere around $13 billion, but India's share has been quite limited, that is only 5.31. Now, in this, the sectors that have been covered are the ones where India can contribute more, such as IT and computer related services, business and professional services, audiovisual, R&D, education and health services. And in this context, the changes that have been brought through labor mobility, that is the mode 4 commitments, we have seen the intra-corporate transferees have been increased from 20% to 50%. The contractual service suppliers and their stay associated has been changed from 90 days to 2 years, and there has been also provision of additional 2-year extension. So, all of this will be a huge gain for service-oriented exports from India, and this was a long-standing demand from India's end for the FTA, and this will automatically strengthen India's orientation, where we want to become the global services hub. We want to be the originating point of the talent which facilitates the services across the world. So, in this context, this is a greater achievement as compared to the goods itself. Now, this is where we need to also look into that why we have concentrated our energy so much towards Oman, where the export market is limited somewhere around $40 billion. So, let us try to understand that. Now, when we are talking about Oman and the FTA that has been signed, we have to understand that Oman stands as a very important point in our whole West Asia strategy and the trade strategy around it. And in this context, the first thing that Oman brings to the table is the strategic location itself. It is located near the Strait of Hormuz, which is an important choke point during the Iran and Israel issue. This was the choke point that was threatened all the time by Iran to be closed, and this is another place, Oman serves another place to be a direct gateway to West Asia, to Eastern Africa, and also to the Indian Ocean trade routes. So, when we are talking about the presence of Chabahar port right here, Oman also becomes another accessibility point for us in this whole region. Other than that, the ports of Oman, be it Sohar, be it Duqm, all of them are better oriented and aligned towards Indian logistics and India's energy security requirements. So, all of this gives us the advantage of this very strategic location, and what better way to use this for enhanced trade as well with this very country. Other than that, we also bring Oman to the main point here because of the economic profile. As I said, the whole annual import that happens into Oman is around $40 billion. That means the whole export that is possible into Oman as of now is $40 billion. However, it is a heavy importer of two important things, machinery and industrial goods, where India is the exporter. So that means we have further scope to enhance the number in this very number. For example, as we said ki we are reaching somewhere around $10 in terms of total trade volume, and the import remains somewhere around $5 billion for Oman. So there is a lot of scope that India can still utilize. And the next important thing that comes into the picture is the fact that when we are trying to engage with the regional bloc, that is GCC, and the FTA talks have been stalled as of now, this is where getting an FTA with Oman, which is the second country, the first country was UAE, second country here is Oman, this gives us a bigger reach into that regional bloc, because now we are operating with two of its members. So it will automatically give us an incremental entry into this regional bloc, even though we have a bloc level FTA deadlock or it has been stalled as of now. So even after that, we are engaging with two countries, which puts us at an advantageous position in this scenario. Now I would like to add another dimension that why Oman matters in this scenario is because of the tariff situation that is present across the world, be it US, be it Mexico, which are increasing the tariffs, which are going to hurt our export oriented industries. That is also an important factor in this particular CEPA that has been signed. And now we will move on to discuss the whole tariff liberalization that has been done in this particular agreement that has been signed. Now starting with the fact that as of now, Oman has given a zero duty access to 98% of all the goods that are traded. That means we have better prices to offer in Oman now. For example, let's just say one product was 100 rupees and we had to pay duty of 10%, it became 110. Now because that duty has been removed, that will be available in market for 100, and that will place us with a price competitive edge. Other than that, it will be really beneficial when EU fully implements the carbon taxes, because that is where our export industries were worried about being hurt in terms of the exports being limited or increase in the compliance cost. So we have found an alternative. Second, the threat from US is still hanging in terms of increasing the tariffs, because what the terms they have placed in front of us, we can't continue with that, and the threat still remains. So even if US imposes more tariffs, we will be in a better placed situation. We will be sided with a partner, and in a export market, we will be having an access to an export market where we are more competitive, and there is a possibility to expand the scope that already exists. Other than that, because of this very CEPA, we will also get to see a major impact on engineering goods. We will get to see industrial machinery and also consumer durables, because they are the key imports of Oman. And not only key imports of Oman across the countries, but also the key imports of Oman from India itself. So if we do a recap and look and place it in the order, if we get a major gain in terms of services sector, we have got a major gain in terms of price competitiveness. We have an indirect entry into US also, because Oman and US have a signed FTA, and we have the scope of expanding our exports to this particular country. However, the limitation that remains here, that Oman is a limited market, as we have understood, $40 billion, and that is why the growth that will take place, the expansion that we are aiming in terms of exports, that will only happen if we are able to upgrade the quality and match it to the standards, and if we bring out product differentiation, especially as compared to the products that already exist. Now, when we have discussed that what are the key provisions that have been included in this CEPA, now it becomes important to understand that certain exclusions that have been done and why they have been done from India's end. If we were getting so much of advantage when 98% of goods were placed in the duty-free access, then zero duty-free access, then why not the other 2%? What went wrong there? Now let us talk about that. So if we talk about the list of exclusion, we get to see that multiple products such as dairy, such as precious metals, such as rubber, tobacco, labor intensive goods, footwear, sports goods, scrap of base metals, they all have been excluded as of now. And the reason they have been excluded is because these are sensitive sectors such as production is taken by farmers, dairy, agriculture, MSMEs, scrap of base metal, then we have the footwear market, and these are labor intensive industries. So in order to protect these industries, and this is what we are trying to do with the US FTA talks as well, we are trying to protect these industries because we cannot open the market for such goods, because there will be a direct harm that will take place. So if there is opening of inflow of goods from Oman in all these categories, it is going to hurt these industries where they are already struggling. But at the same time, when they are struggling, they are the biggest pillars of our economy. So in this scenario, we get to see that we are going towards a evolved FTA strategy where we are protecting our interest and we are not giving blanket liberalization, focusing on calibrated openness. Another special concession that we have gotten from Oman is the fact that Oman has allowed the Indian houses and certain Indian companies to import marble blocks. However, domestically, it is a banned export that is seen. And this will facilitate India's construction sector, stone processing, MSMEs that exist. And this shows that even if the policies are different domestically, how bilateral trust can actually turn the trade strategy and help in trade. So this is a very good example that you can use as a case study as well in your answers. Now that we have a fair understanding of what has been gained and what are the things associated around it, now let us move to understand the significance of all this, that how it will have a strategic and also a geopolitical impact. So starting with how it is going to benefit us economically. First of all, this is a place where India has got to diversify export destinations. This has been a basic fundamental related to business, related to investment. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, and this is what India is doing in terms of export destinations. If all our major exports will be concentrated towards US, if US changes the policy, our industries are going to be hurt. We don't want that. So what we are going to do, we are going to focus on other export markets so that even if one policy at one country changes, the others are in place and there is no crash that happens. And that is why this will easily reduce our vulnerability and it will strengthen our partners who have been in trade for energy security. It will strengthen energy and fertilizer supply chains. Because if you just looked at the items of list which are exported and imported, this is where these are the two main supply chains that lie on the table. Other than that, as I previously also mentioned, that we are seeing a calibrated FTA strategy. We are not giving blanketed liberalization that everything is on table, everything is open. Liberalization, but protecting our domestic interests. There are safeguards in place and the whole focus is on strengths, that is services as well as mobility. So as much as we want to be partners, but we would want to reap the advantage as much as possible, and that clearly shows in the given trade policy. Other than that, we are also getting to see that this is a geopolitical turn in terms of trade policy as well, because this is reinforcing that India is putting a pivot in West Asia and that India is pivoting towards West Asia, and this directly aligns with India's Indian Ocean as well as maritime strategy, because where we want to diminish the impact of China and bring in our partners for better trade, better protection, better usage across Indian Ocean. And it also enhances strategic trust with a key regional player that has stood with us for the longest time. As I said, in the longer term, it gives us an indirect access to the US market. Then there is huge possibility of joint manufacturing as well as processing hubs and their enablement. So when we are talking about this CEPA, it seems like a starting point where India is recalibrating its trade policy, its trade structures, and the whole orientation with which FTAs were talked about and FDAs were signed, and and this is where India has marked the step. Now, what are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comment section. That was all from my side. I would ask you to highlight the challenges that might come up with this particular CEPA that have been signed. That was all. Thank you so much.